What is going on? It is Nate the Game Guy coming back with another video at hand, and today I want to talk to you guys about some of the best original Xbox games to play on the Series X. What's really nice about the Series X is that it allows for backwards compatibility, even though not for an entire game console's library, but it is really nice that there are games from not just Xbox One, but Xbox 360 and yes, original Xbox. Now, the original Xbox had a ton of great games, whether they were exclusives or third-party releases onto the console. The fact of the matter is, the original Xbox had a fantastic library of games. Now, with looking at some of the games that are compatible with the backwards compatibility program on the Series X, I figured it would be nice to take a look at what I consider to be some of the best games that are on that list. Now, keep in mind, with this list, I'm not going to rank these games in any way, shape, or form. This is not a worst best or best to worst. These are just games that I consider to be some of the best out of the library itself. And thankfully, with all these games that I am talking about in this video, I do own and have played myself. So without further ado, let's jump right into this video's topic. Take a look at some of these original Xbox games that you can play on the Series X right after the intro. So starting off strong on the list is Crimson Skies High Road to Revenge. This game was totally fun back when it came out in 2003 on the original Xbox, and Microsoft really went in strong by bringing out this exclusive title with its very fun dogfights of how you just go on through the open skies, take on different enemies trying to gun you down. This game was a blast back in its day. Unfortunately, you don't really see these types of games very often overall, but with a game such as Crimson Skies, like I said, it was a great game to play. And it also is really nice that this is a game that is available onto the Series X. Thankfully, this is a game that is not very rare, and it is pretty affordable to pick up. So if you ever do happen to have the chance of finding this game either at your local game shop, at a yard sale, out in the wild, or whatever your case may be, I would strongly recommend that you guys do consider playing this game, if not picking it up, and having yourself a good time on the Series X with Crimson Skies. Now, another great game that is worth playing on the Series X off of the original Xbox's library is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. When this game came out back in 2004, it had a ton of success, and for good reason too. The game had some really solid overall gameplay. It had a really cool vibe to it, themed off of the 90s gangster West Coast, and it just had an overall great presentation with the game itself. It brings me quite a big smile seeing that this game is available to play on the Series X, especially since this game is one of my favorite entries of the Grand Theft Auto franchise. And I have to say, if you are looking to find some games that are really fun to play, and maybe you happen to have quite a bit of a nostalgia trip going on, this is a game that you can add to your list of games that are available on the Series X to play through the backwards compatibility list. And I have to say, this is easily one of the cream of the crop when it comes to some of the best games off of the original Xbox's library that you can play on the Series X. Giving you guys a 2-for-1, and for good reason too, is the Star Wars Battlefront games, specifically 1 and 2, the originals from the 2000s. These games were a ton of fun to play, even if you weren't a Star Wars fan. These games allowed you to go onto the battlefield, take on different command posts from your opponent, and it would take you throughout multiple places through the Star Wars universe, and you had all kinds of different vehicles to play, different classes that you can choose from. And I have to say, this was a overall great little thing that was going on back during its past time with the original Battlefront and Battlefront 2. Of course, with Battlefront 2, it introduced you to have the ability to choose through the different Jedis to go onto the battlefield and take on whether it might be the Empire or whatever your opponent may be. These games were a ton of fun to play. With your Series X, these are games I do have to say that are really up there in terms of great quality titles, is because after all, a lot of people really enjoyed the Battlefront games from back in the day for good reason. Now, sticking to the theme of Star Wars, when it comes to original Xbox games that are worth playing on the Series X is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. This was such a great RPG back in its day, especially with its story, and I had a ton of fun playing it on the original Xbox, and I do have to say this is a game that I would love to revisit sometime. Now, I haven't played Knights of the Old Republic 2, so I can't really speak on that too much, but what I can tell you is that is also another game off of the original Xbox's list that you can play on the Series X. So if that is also another game that you guys do enjoy, I'm also giving you guys another 2-for-1 in this video with Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. But what I can say from playing the original Knights of the Old Republic is that it was a fantastic RPG, especially if you were a Star Wars fan as well. So I do have to say, if you've got a Series X, that might be a game that you may want to consider popping into your console sometime to play. Now, this is a really cool platformer to play off of the original Xbox on your Series X, and that is Blinx the Time Sweeper. Blinx the Time Sweeper was partially made by Sonic the Hedgehog's co-creator, which was Naoto Oshima, when at the time he left Sonic Team to form Artoon, which happens to be the developer for Blinx the Time Sweeper. What's really cool about this game is that you get to play as Blinx, and he has the ability to pause time, fast forward, rewind, stop, and you are able to use that to your advantage to go across the different levels. And overall, it is a really solid platformer that was a ton of fun, and I do have quite a bit of nostalgia for, especially considering that game was my first original Xbox game that I own and I still love to this day. Of course, if you're going down the list of original Xbox games to play, I do have to say Blinx the Time Sweeper is one game that I do have to recommend when it comes to games that you can play on the Series X, is because it was just overall a really fun game back in its day. And if you are wanting to go down memory lane with a pretty cool and innovative platformer, I have to say this one might be worth playing on your Series X sometime. Now, another solid title worth talking about on this list is Panzer Dragoon Orta. The Panzer Dragoon games are considered to be some of the best games on the Sega Saturn's library through the community itself. And when it comes to Panzer Dragoon Orta, that is the last Panzer Dragoon game that was made by Sega before there were a few remakes later down the line. And with Panzer Dragoon Orta, it is the cheapest entry into the series. If you haven't played a Panzer Dragoon game, it is essentially like Star Fox, but you get to see what's behind you, what's to the side of you, both left and right, and of course what's in front of you. The games are pretty cool. It has a really cool atmosphere, and I have to say, if that is something that really intrigues you when it comes to its gameplay and its elements that it has to offer, this is a game that is pretty much worth checking out sometime off of the original Xbox's list of games that you can play on the Series X. Now, another great game worth talking about on this list is Conker's Live and Reloaded. This game is a remake off of Conker's Bad Fur Day off of the Nintendo 64, and it is true that you can play the original Bad Fur Day off of the Rare Replay Collection, which is a backwards compatible Xbox One game on the Series X. I do think that Conker Live and Reloaded is still a great game worth talking about in this video, because after all, it's a remake worked off of a really good game. You have some updated textures, updated graphics, and I do think that the game is still really good overall. Whether you want to make the argument whether the original Bad Fur Day was better or if you still like Live and Reloaded, so you do have both choices available to what makes sense for you. Now, another great game made by Rare that you can play on the Series X is Grabbed by the Ghoulies. Grabbed by the Ghoulies was a pretty fun game back in its day. Back when it came out in 2003, it introduced a pretty fun concept of how you had to go through this haunted mansion to save your girlfriend, and you had to take on different ghoulies and different enemies, and it was just a really fun game to play overall. I think Rare did a great job making this game, and it is a game that I do want to play again from time to time just because I had a ton of fun playing it. Now, this is a game that is also available off of the Rare Replay collection, but if for whatever reason you happen to have an original copy laying around, or you happen to stumble into the original copy of Grabbed by the Ghoulies, this is a great game that you can play on your Series X, and I would strongly recommend checking it out if you haven't played the game already. Alright, and that'll conclude my video for some of the best original Xbox games that you can play on the Series X. What do you guys think? Are there any games that I just forgot about that I didn't put on the list? What are some games that you agree with on the list? Feel free to comment in the comment section down below. Keep in mind, if there's a game that I did not mention on the list, there's also a really good chance I just haven't played it yet. But if you did enjoy the video, please do consider giving this video a like, helps boost it up into the YouTube algorithm, and of course, please do consider subscribing because I post a ton of content on the channel when it comes to game collecting tips, and other video game related subjects. So if that is something that interests you guys, please do consider subscribing. But if you're going to subscribe, don't forget to hit that bell notification button so that way you will be notified when I upload a video just like this. I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and I'll be seeing you guys